Time for another garden tour. Welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Kayla and this is 5 Canadian Acres, where we're growing in a Zone 3 in Alberta, Canada. It's the end of July and it's been about 4 weeks since my last garden tour, which was July 1st Canada Day. So much has changed. The July, August garden, the summer garden up here is just crazy. We've got wild things, we've got things growing, tons of harvesting, but still waiting on those tomatoes and peppers. Let's go take a look. As usual, we'll start by our sugar magnolia peas, which are starting to die back. We have harvested a lot, and these are going to get pulled out right away. There's still some fall garden things I can plant, like lettuce and spinach, because I've pulled up all the lettuce there, letting that tomato grow up. These onions I got, I've not been doing really good. They were just an impulse clearance purchase, but if anything, we'll get a bunch of green onions. And these are the radishes that I've let go to seed. We've harvested some radish pods, but for the most part, we're letting them all dry so I can harvest the seeds. They're the French breakfast radish, and you can see they're starting to dry up here. So we'll be able to harvest some of those fairly soon. And the tomatoes are doing good. Nothing really growing yet. These were garlic chives that I planted earlier, and really they've come along pretty good for being totally shaded out by this. We have had a ton of rain and even a little bit of hail. Thankfully, not too much damage. Nothing was decimated. A little bit of lettuce was shredded and holes in some leaves. My heart goes out to those people that gardens have been ruined by hail. It's kind of a common thing, unfortunately, here in Alberta. We get a lot of crazy weather in the summers. And if you have a garden like this, there's nothing a lot you can do. I mean, even if you cover it, some of this hail will go through roofs and such. So you just pray it misses you. And the little bit that I did get didn't do too much damage. You can see here is some of the damage that was done. Just kind of the bigger leaves, like my rhubarb and stuff, got holes in them. Some of the like Swiss chard here, you can see if they got hit, it broke. Same with the tomato, got hit here and it broke. But mostly everything's been okay, and it's just really bounced back. I was going to do some harvesting, but left this out here and didn't. And this is my rain gauge now, and that's probably, we actually got this much in the course of 2 hours on the first day. So we've had lots of water for the garden, and now we just need the sunshine so it will grow. This I thought was orach. I don't know. I'm going to have to search it up because I tasted it. It's very bitter. Maybe that's what it's supposed to taste like. It kind of looks like a tree to me. This is a radicchio that popped up from some seeds I planted earlier. We'll let that one grow. And then just the Swiss chard we've been harvesting, eating really well. Tomatoes are growing good. These are those big African marigolds, which are beautiful, but I'm going to try to plant more of the smaller marigolds next year because these just take over. I'll put these somewhere where they have room to grow. And actually, speaking of tomatoes, if we go way in here, I was searching yesterday, of course, walk around the garden. There in the back, you can see a tomato that's just starting to turn. That's a sun gold, so it'll be yellow, which is nice. Again, lots of nice tomatoes growing, just nothing ripe yet. This is lettuce we've been growing, and you can see again, this is the damage. It got shredded. Some of it's going to seed because between our rains, we've had really hot weather. We'll harvest what we can. More of these crazy big marigolds. Into more tomatoes. This is a black strawberry tomato, but it's not ripe yet. So don't mind my nails. I need to get those redone. It's really hard to have nails done in the garden because I don't like to wear gloves. And in front here, all the peppers. These are just a few extras I threw down. These Sugar Rush Peach actually have done pretty good. We're getting some decent peppers off of there. And then next door here, these are a Frigitello, I think. Yes. And they are growing. These are Italian frying pepper. So we're getting some nice ones off there. And then we have our sweet cubanelle, which I've not done good at all for me. I don't think I have one pepper on any of my sweet cubanelles. So it's probably something I won't be growing again, considering a lot of other peppers have peppers on them that are getting pretty close. Again, here is the jungle of the summer garden. Things have just gone crazy. This back is all my cucamelons. We haven't had any ripe ones yet, but they are definitely growing. And if we look down in here, we should be able to find some little itty bitty baby ones. I mean, they don't get really big, but when they first start out, they're just so tiny. You can barely see it there. Really tiny when they first start out. These peppers are getting pretty smothered in here. These are just a sweet bell. I haven't noticed much off of those. These ones are my sweet chocolate, which are starting to get a few. Look in here, you can kind of see some. And then over here next are called a Torador, and I am getting some of these as well. Actually, oh wow, look down in here. Might be time to start harvesting some peppers because you got to dig in and you see all these little guys hiding. And these ones, I believe, are my habaneros, or so they're habanadas. And I don't think I see much on there for peppers. Back here are my watermelons, which have grown up really nice. I don't know if we'll get any ripe ones. I do have a couple that are forming, if I can find them, kind of on the other side. Oh, there's one right here. So there's this little baby watermelon. We'll have to see if I'll get anything to ripen, hopefully. And this one here is that farthest north melon. And again, I'm starting to just see some of the flowers. Got some male flowers in there, but I don't see much for any females yet. Now this was supposed to be a cantaloupe. Obviously it is not. I think it's some sort of summer squash and it's taking over. I'm going to leave it because it is growing fruit. You can see in there. Maybe a yellow squash. I'm not sure. But I am going to probably cut off these big leaves because it is smothering out my peppers. Honestly, though, I'd probably rather have the squash than the peppers. That's why I'm letting it go. And next over here are our paprika peppers. Now, if you notice, I have a few things I've put these little baggies on. This is so I can save seed. In order to prevent cross-pollination, if I put that little baggie on before the flower opens up, and I give it a little shake, they're self-fertile, so they'll pollinate themselves, and then I can be sure. And then once the fruit is developed and starts growing, I can take it off and I'll tie a little ribbon on that stem so I know this is the one to keep because I know it is going to be not cross-pollinated. If we go in here, that guy needs to be pulled. All that kind of scratching you'll see, that just shows that it's like ripened, but it's obviously stunted a little bit. We've gotten really cold temperatures. Like last night, it was 9 degrees Celsius, and peppers do not like it cold, but there's nothing I can do up here. We just have to learn to grow what we can. This is a Serrano. I don't really see much on there for peppers. It's actually a really nice little plant, though. I enjoy that plant. And then back here is the cayenne, which cayenne peppers do really good in our climate. I always get lots of cayenne peppers. Some green onion. At the back there, that's a Kajari melon. Again, it was stunted. Melons are really hard to grow here. Just let it grow, see if we get anything. And there was a cantaloupe back in here somewhere. You can dig in there and see. I think that one in the back is a cantaloupe. And we'll see if anything comes up from that as well. Over here in this bed, you can see all my ranunculus have died back. It got really hot and they do not like the heat. So I have to do some research, but I think once they've died back, I can pull them up and I'll save the corms for next year. But everything else is looking pretty good in here. My roses have just been blooming like crazy and they're very nice. There's some bee balm, some lemon balm, garlic chives. This is an Italian oregano, some winter onions. I have nodding onions in there, but they have not done very well. This at the back here is bishop flower. My lavender does pretty good. Hopefully, we'll see next year if it comes back. It's a Munstead lavender. This one little tall guy there is dragon balm. And then here we have some thyme. And I think I threw another little onion in there as well. And then, of course, all the weeds that just love to grow, and that's okay. This middle section here, you can see like the flowers, the petunias did not like that rain, but we'll just go ahead. I'll chop them off, deadhead them, and hopefully they'll come back. This is just a little bit of things I need to plant still, some Chinese cabbage and broccoli, and I'll show you where I'm going to rip some stuff out for room for that. And then, of course, just the random tomato plants, which are getting some few little bit of tomatoes on them and everything, so that's nice. And actually at the back is all my bunch of mint, which I need to harvest again because it's just going crazy. The chocolate mint, pineapple mint, orange mint, and oh, this is the chocolate mint. So this one is called a basil. Sorry, this is a basil mint, which is actually probably one of my new favorite mints. It's got like a really kind of earthy, more not as pepperminty, like it's legit like a basil cross with mint. Very nice. And my crazy chaos of Kalinka Malinka tomatoes. Now these have been really good. I didn't really prune them much. I'm probably going to have to just because I planted them so close together. But there's like a crazy, crazy ton of tomatoes on all of these plants. And there's 5 plants in here. I'm going to grow these again next year because being a super determinate, they don't get super tall. But if I were to grow them a little bit more space and then put a tomato cage around them, it would be perfect. So that's the plan for next year. And as you can see over here, I did put a little baggie on one of them, so I'll be able to save the seeds. And these guys have just gotten decimated by that, so I'm going to have to take them out and maybe save them. These are my King of the North peppers, which are doing pretty good too. If I actually come back in here, you can see we're getting some pretty big peppers on some of them. And again, it's probably time pretty soon. I think we'll be pulling off some peppers, which is nice. And my little experiment back here with my pepper I didn't pull off. Again, you can see he's doing all right, but there is nothing else. And it's a pretty stunted plant. Yes, it's in the back, but I mean, this other one that was in the back came up all right. So chamomile's just gone nuts. I've been harvesting that and drying it for teas. The morning glory is really pretty. We've really been enjoying that. I'll do that again next year. And the grapevine, it's just gone nuts again this year. It's coming way out here. We're gonna have to do something with that. Now my garlic here is going to seed because I didn't pull these scapes and I'm letting them go to seed. We're doing a little experiment. It looks pretty cool actually. And if you do grow garlic from seed, I believe it takes about 3 years to get the bulbs. And we have some onions doing good. The okra, I mean, it's growing, but I don't know if we'll have enough time. I don't think it's liked our really rainy, crazy weather. Shishito peppers, these are probably ready to be picked. I grew these last year and they produced really well. This is not a shishito pepper. It's nice to mulch with straw, but you definitely get some weeds. They're easy to pull though. Over here to our jalapeno peppers, they've been coming on pretty good. We're getting some good size to a bunch of them. Again, things are getting really close for those ones. The lettuce is doing really well. It has liked all of the rain. Gonna get a head there, hopefully. My notapinos, again, they've done really well as well. Quite a few of these guys are pretty loaded with some fruit. We'll be picking those soon. This is kind of the lettuce. You can see it got shredded by that little bit of hail and like super heavy rain, but lettuce will come back. And also it's really quick to germinate and grow, so we'll have to plant some more. I did replant some red romaine. I got one, but it didn't come up, so obviously that seed's probably done. Plant something else there. Marigolds here are looking good, starting to grow. And then come on down below, I picked the potatoes that were in here. I got a decent amount out of them. And these are more peppers, and I don't really see much for on here yet. So our apple tree's growing, dahlia's growing. These are a couple blueberry plants I found for $3 on clearance. I'm gonna try to plant those to get some more. This definitely needs to get cleaned up and weeded. Very fortunate to have a ton of wild raspberries on our property that we can grow. But like a lot of plants, to me, raspberries are invasive. People might not consider it, but raspberries invade my garden all the time. So I'm gonna have to really probably rethink my whole raspberry asparagus bed here, and I might just revamp it and do something totally different. Because I really wanna grow blueberries, and there's a blueberry bush in here that's my best one. You can see it's actually starting to turn a little bit, a few blueberries there. And then I could put these blueberries here, and maybe I'll make this my blueberry patch. Weeds, onions, marigolds. These are my ground cherries, which I've been keeping an eye on. Nothing has come ripe yet, but it's getting really close. Oh, did I just, nope, that one's still attached. We're good. I end up knocking fruit off all the time. Some more chamomile, where the grape bush starts, and it has really just taken off this year. The plan is eventually actually to build an arbor for it to go over. Until then, it's just doing its thing. And looks like we got some damage there, all the rain. But we got a whole ton of grapes on it this year. So hopefully I'll get enough to make some good jelly. Horseradish is doing good. I'll pull that up in the fall. This cherry tree used to be a bush, and it's a tree this year. It's done pretty good. It didn't get as many cherries as we want, but I ate one and it was pretty good. They're a sour cherry, Look at this one's got damage on it. But next year they had a ton of blossoms this year, so next year I'm really going to focus, maybe get another tree or really help it get pollinated because I want lots of cherries to make things with. And on to our strawberry asparagus bed. The strawberries have definitely, they slowed down and they started putting off a lot of runners, baby strawberries. But now that they've done that, they're starting to grow more blossoms. These are an everbearing, so they kind of grow all season. Love these ones. I'm going to probably leave a lot of the babies in this year, and then next year we're going to probably move this, revamp it, because we need a much bigger area for our strawberries, and this just gets out of control. There's a ton of weeds in here or things I don't want to be growing there, that it just needs a lot of work. Over here in these beds, this is a broccoli that went to seed flower that I'm letting go. The kohlrabi is crazy, but it hasn't really bulbed up. Like, look what, I don't know what it's doing. It's just gotten to be an alien crazy mess. So I think I'm just going to pull that out. Actually, that's what I was saying. All of these beds are going to get pulled out. And I'm going to put that broccoli in there. I'm going to kale, dry it for greens. Like you can see with all that rain, the cabbage has split. So I'm going to cut that because we've got another cabbage there. Pull those up, cut it, make some sauerkraut, do whatever we need to do with it. These are my little cabbages that I cut before. And like I said, look at, we got little baby cabbages. So if you leave that bit in the ground, it will grow baby cabbages. So I'll pull these up and I'll just use all the baby cabbages. We'll eat those. More kale to pull up. I pulled up the other broccoli here already. And then we've been harvesting this other broccoli. It's done really good. We'll pull all the side shoots and eat them. And then a lot of these greens we'll just give to the chickens and rabbits. And then with these beds pulled up, I'm going to plant those broccolis and cabbage that I have left to plant for my fall garden. Now this bed I'm not going to pull up because these are actually just green beans that I planted for succession planting. They're still a little ways off to being ripe. And then just the onions growing there for seeds. Maybe I'll turn and go over here to this other crazy mess. I'm definitely learning that I shouldn't plant things so close together because once July comes and August, it just is a little bit crazy. But I mean, things do grow still, so we'll just go with it. So these are all the onions that I had left go to seed. With that rain, it's just kind of made everything look ugly. But I'll wait till it dries up a bit, then I'm going to get the rest of those seeds. In the front here are all the green beans for my experiment. So I did 3 to kind of experiment: tender green improved, a stringless green pod, and then a provider. The stringless green pod and the provider are good. I'm not actually a fan of these tender green improved flavor, so I won't be planting those. But these ones are really prolific and the provider are really prolific. Like you can see, once green beans start coming, you just need to pick. I've picked probably every couple of days. And the trick is with green beans is you gotta lift them up. I take all this stuff and lift them up because a lot of the stuff hangs down low. And then growing up the back are my cucumbers. These are called a tasty green, so they're a longer one for slicing. And again, we have been harvesting quite a few off of there. You can see if I go dig in here, one hanging back there, and they get pretty good. Like they're big. They're like the size of like your normal long English cucumber you would get in the store. And they've been pretty prolific. In the corner here, I have an Armenian cucumber, which is kind of like a melon. It's kind of trailing off the back. It hasn't grown very much, but hopefully we'll get some fruit off of that. Next over here is our peppers and lettuce. You can see, yes, the lettuce definitely got shredded. I think it was more from just the super heavy rain that we had. So that's okay. It should bounce back, and some of these heads in front look pretty good. I'll probably end up just pulling a bunch of that and feeding it to the rabbits and the chickens. Peppers are looking pretty good. This is a King Crimson, and we're getting a few off of those. They will turn red, so I'm just waiting and hopefully it will. Habanero peppers. This one looked a little sickly. It hasn't really done much. This one here is put off a pretty nice little pepper. And then the one in the back's fallen over. It's very dark and green, but not much for fruit. Okay, here's those other sweet Cubanelles I had. This one looks pretty diseased. And yeah, I just don't have... Oh, here's my first pepper. There's one. Just really late in growing. And then lastly, what is this? This is the Frigitello here, and we're getting some pretty good ones off of those now. So this was more lettuce and then hot salsa blend peppers. And I've started to figure out a few of them. Like, pretty sure this is a jalapeno. And in the back there, covered in this stuff, is a cayenne pepper. And we'll have to just see. I think there's serrano, like this might be a cayenne, or I think it might be a Thai chili, so that might be that one. Really, it's going to end up being a taste test. Over here, again, these are more beans. These are a yellow bean. These ones I haven't got much off of yet, but they're pretty close here. And in the middle are my dragon tongue beans, which I've grown every year, and they're pretty fun. They don't preserve super well, but they taste really good and they're kind of fun. That purple kind of goes off of them when they grow bigger. My nasturtium got really overtaken by these purple beans, but it's still growing and we're getting some blooms on there. Now in the back are all of my experiments with different pickling cucumbers. I haven't had a lot off of most of them, but actually it's probably easier if I go around back. I don't think I ever showed you guys too my little hens and chicks there. Yeah, so if we go around back, we can see I've gotten a few. This is a dragon's egg cucumber, just starting to get some. And here is the white cucumber, which we have loved. Very good flavor. Growing a lot of those next year. Nothing really much for like the national pickling or the other pickling ones, except for this one, which is called a quarantine hybrid. Now, if I can find some. That one, see, we've had a lot of rain. That guy's rotted there. But these quarantine hybrid, we have been picking, I've probably picked at least 10 or 15 off of here. So again, we're going to grow more of those. They are a hybrid, but that's why we grow hybrids, is because they can help us get more out of our garden, really, because these guys are all way later and behind. And then yeah, actually I did plant some more succession planting of a cucumber up the back here. Hopefully we'll get some to grow. This is the back side of those tasty greens, and there's actually a big one there. I do plan eventually we're going to put arches over to this side in our new garden, and then I think those things will grow a lot better there. Here's the newest garden. This is the fall garden I just planted, and you can see things are sprouting already. Well, this are starts. So these are all cabbages and broccolis, and these are radishes. I planted some daikon radish and watermelon radish. And then the beets I planted, and they're starting to come up. You can kind of see in a row, tons of weeds. But with all the rain, this is so sloppy. I'm going to get in there later. These will grow fine with the weeds for now, and I'll just pull the weeds later. And this was my little sprinkle test, and it did really well. It actually started germinating before the others, and we have a ton of beets everywhere. Back this way, and we can get into this little fun garden area. This is my tulip bed that's just full of weeds. I think that's a yellow raspberry I still have to plant. Catnip's gone to flower, which is all right. I'm going to collect seeds. Yarrow's been good. I've dried a bit of that. This is that Mexican sunflower torch, which is starting to bloom finally, and there's quite a few little blooms on there, so give it another week. If we get some good sunshine, this is going to be beautiful. This is a volunteer borage I've just let go. The zinnia bed, they finally started to flower, and they are really pretty. There's tons coming on, but these ones are just really pretty. I've definitely been trying to add more flowers to the garden. There's so much green that it's nice to see that little punch of color, and the pollinators like them too. We'll go this way, we've got the sunflowers, and these are actually going to open up really soon here too. Those should be pretty. They're, I think, the autumn beauty, so there are a bunch of browns and stuff like that. The black turtle beans are doing good. This is all from all that rain and like winds and craziness. It's been knocked around. I might get in here and stake it up, or really I'll just push my way past and let it grow. You can see the beets that I planted as a succession planting are growing along nice, and the cucumbers are growing up nice. I think actually we're getting a few, if I look in here. These are a mix of those quarantine hybrid, and then the ones that didn't sprout, I put in the white cucumbers, so that will be good. There's just a few starting to grow in there. These are tomatoes that I never trellised up because those beans, I planted Chinese noodle beans, and they're starting to grow, but they were so slow. Just put the tomatoes in. I didn't trellis them, and as you can see, they just fall over, and it's basically just growing a ton of little tomato plants. See what comes of that. You can see at the back, actually, a few of those Chinese noodle beans coming up. These tomatoes haven't done very good in these pots. I mean, I guess haven't done good, but there's a ton of tomatoes on them. So basically we're just going to keep them alive until I can harvest them once they're ready. And then these are those lemonade cascade beans, which have done nuts crazy. I've planted scarlet runner beans in the past and they do really good. These cascade lemon beans have just taken over. If you're in the northern climates and you want to do a trellis, like one of those nice full trellises, I highly recommend these cascade lemonade beans. Put some tomatoes in there as well, which are kind of just falling over, doing their thing. And then over there, this is the marigolds. I'm going to go this way because as you can see, it's so wet in there. Probably going to end up with very wet feet, but that's okay. So yes, these are marigolds, and also I planted some bachelor buttons just to get some pretty flowers. I put some parsley up front here. One sprouted, and we've got a couple more sprouting. And then some dill. This is a nettle plant I've let grow. I'm going to be harvesting that too. These beans here, these are the Blue Lake Bush, and they kind of struggled to start, but they're coming on now. So we'll get some more green beans. We just really like pickled beans. And more dill. And here into my circle of tomatoes, which has just gone crazy. Definitely, I haven't been able to be out in the garden for like a week with all the crazy weather. It's time to get out here, prune these up a little bit and tie them up to really see what's going on. These are a teddy bear sunflower. Hopefully those will bloom soon. As you can see too, like this is the craziness. We've got this squash just making its way right through here. Try to make it go out, but again, I just planted too much too close together. So it just finds a way, which is fine. It's all right. That's what the forest does. That's what Mother Nature does. It just let it all grow. We've got calendula in the back there I've been harvesting. And then basically all of these guys are just starting to form. The spaghetti squash is the moonshine spaghetti squash, has done fantastic. Kind of look out here. There's a big one right in there. But other than that, the other kinds are just kind of starting. Oh, here, I'll make a liar of myself because look at this guy. There's one guy in there. That guy looks, that is the, I have to go back and look in my records because I can't remember what I planted where. I know there's a butternut, a buttercup, a butter bush, but this is not one of those. This is another different kind. And it's kind of neat how this one grows in more like of a bush, whereas these ones really try to vine out. And actually this one here in the corner as well is my candy roaster, which hasn't done too much yet. Tomatoes, again, they are ready to be staked up a time. I've gotten a lot. Let's step over here so we can see. I have got a lot of this leaf curl, and it's been happening all season. We've just had such crazy weather, like I'm sure most people have had. But despite that, you look at the new growth and you can see as long as that new growth is coming out, I'm gonna get in here and trim up a lot of those leaves. We're getting some pretty big tomatoes on some of these that we're just waiting for them to ripen now. Actually, this end here, this is the Golden King of Siberia. And sorry, spot fell there. Look at the size of this tomato. It's so big. It's gonna go yellow. You're almost careful you don't want to fall off because they're so big. And then yeah, all the tomatoes are looking pretty good. These ones are really neat, those sunflower flares. And then we'll just, once we get some sunshine, this should really, really start to ripen. Like these guys, you can see, are starting to lighten up. So when you first get a tomato, it's like this and it's kind of dull. And then they start to grow bigger and they get a bit of a shine to them. And then they really just start to lighten up before they'll turn their color. Borage is looking good. Rhubarb, all the mint I need to come in and trim up because it's starting to go to seed. And then we just need to start drying it for our teas all winter. Over here, I'll throw up a picture here of what this looked like right after that rain, because this was all full of water, which is part of the reason I put my celery here on this end, because celery likes a lot of water. And I knew that, and as you can see, it's done really well. My dogs actually got in here and they destroyed a bit of that, and they knocked over a bunch of my onions, which was so sad because I don't have a lot of nice onions this year. So these guys have just not really bounced back. But some of the ones they didn't knock over are doing okay. And like this guy, this is a red one, Red Wethersfield. It's looking really nice. It's got like crazy amount of layers going on in there. And then we have some just zinnias at the end, which are looking really good, starting to flower up there. And then on to our 2 rows of peas. These are the sugar magnolia ones, these big tall ones, and they've just flopped over and they're starting to die. So these ones are going to get pulled as well, just so make lots of room for all our carrots, because we have carrots down the side here. But the carrots have done really well. Thankfully, dogs didn't get into most of them. So if we come here, we're getting some really good size to a lot of our carrots. And I have a bunch of different kinds planted. Remember, I only had one little pea come up, so I replanted them here, and they've come along really good. I think we've picked twice off. These are a snap pea, so we're gonna wait till they get fuller. Those ones over there are a snow pea, and we've been pulling those up. Potatoes are starting to die back, so we're just gonna let those go. Potatoes are probably ready to be pulled, same with the other ones that have died back, but we've had so much water, I don't wanna dig them up when it's so wet. So I'm just really hoping we'll get some nice warm days, it'll dry up, and we'll be pulling these potatoes pretty soon. It's actually the same with the garlic here. To harvest garlic, you want the bottom 3 leaves to be dry. And if we look here on this one, we've got 1, 2. So we're gonna wait for this guy to dry up. Actually, this guy's 1, 2, 3, 4. So this guy is probably ready to be pulled, because pretty much each of these leaves is a layer of the garlic. So that's basically gonna be that dry papery layer on the outside that will protect it and let it store. I'm just waiting for things to dry up so it's not too muddy when I pull it. Garlic's probably not as bad as the potatoes though. And then this is all mostly volunteer dill that I've just let go. We're going to be able to use the bouquets for pickling. Over here are our beets. Again, they've been doing really well. We've been harvesting them, eating them. I love them roasted with some steak spice on them. These are the sweet Merlin, so they're a bit smaller. And then these ones over here are the Detroit dark red, and you can see the size on that one. It's really nice. I'm going to have some beets for dinner. And actually, if we go down this way, started to lay my paths, but I need some shavings on here, or some wood chips. These are the golden beet, which have been my new favorite thing. They're so good. And they do really good. And you can even see like the leaves don't have that redness to them. Then over here are turnips. I did not thin these like I was supposed to, but hey, they're growing all right. Getting some big size. I should just get in here now and pull some out so that the other ones can kind of fill out. But they definitely did smother over. I have a row of carrots here, which have struggled because these just got too big. So yes, you can grow carrots beside things, but they need to be far enough away where they're still going to get some light. And these ones are actually my rutabagas, which again are looking really nice in there. One of my favorite traditional like Thanksgiving Christmas meal is rutabaga and carrots, and you just boil that and you mash it with some butter and brown sugar. Yummy. Carrots on this side haven't done too bad, but these are a black nebula. They're kind of fun because of the color, but I don't think I'll grow many of them next year because I'll pull in here and you can kind of see. While they do get a good size, they have all these little hairs on them that just make them really kind of hard to work with. So I don't know, we'll grow a few next year. I mean, I guess they have lots of antioxidants, but like it's just crazy how many hairs these ones have. And that is a problem I've read in reviews, so I kind of knew that going in, but once you experience it, you really know. Yeah, that's what that black nebula, but they're all really cool. They almost like dye things like a beet. And then you can see these are all the potatoes. They actually got flattened a lot with all that rain. So now I just really need some dry weather to dry it up so that we can pull those. Dig them up. That's one of the best things, is digging up potatoes. We've got this zucchini. This is the golden zucchini, yellow zucchini. We've been eating lots of that. There's another one over there. And this one's a green zucchini. So again, zucchini, once it starts, you just got to pretty much harvest every 2 to 3 days. And we really like that, just fried in some butter. We've been making the zucchini with breaded. So you just dip it in flour, eggs, and then some breading. And you fry that in some oil. It's really good. Over here are the patty pans. And again, it's like it's time to start harvesting patty pans. That one is ready. There's a ton in here. Some people will actually harvest them really little like that, but you can, and then you can just kind of cook them whole in a pan with some butter, or you can harvest them this size and cut them up. And then they basically just taste like a zucchini, really. I have moved the fence in one because everything started to grow out here. These are the white pumpkin. I think it's a Casper pumpkin, and we have a few of those. They're doing really good. But again, this pumpkin grows in very much like a bush format, which is fine. You just got to know your growing conditions. But it's gotten like there's a little pumpkin back in there. We have quite a few pumpkins on that one. But then we have next to it the Howden pumpkin, and you can see they grow as like a vine. So knowing your space, if you don't have as much space, I mean, this takes up a lot, but it's not going to grow all crazy out and wild. And I think we just have a few pumpkins on that one. I don't know, this one might be the white one too. There. And then some more volunteer dill, which we'll let go. And then these are my other pumpkin experiment that is growing okay, but not really. I mean, they had a bit of a later start, and I don't see any pumpkins on there yet. So we probably won't get a whole lot because we're at the end of July, we only have about, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks for a frost. Hopefully we'll get a late one, but you just never know. Okay, now we'll go over to our corn. Now it started to tassel a while ago. So this are the tassels, they'll grow up. And then what happens is all this pollen will fall onto, you can kind of see it, that's crazy, onto these silks. Each of these silks is one little kernel of corn. So what you want to do, you can come and shake these. It's a lot of pollen. And you want, each of these need a piece of pollen to fall on it. And that's how you get a full cob of corn. So yeah, these are starting to grow really well, but we did get some damage. It must have been a wind that came through here because this all looks good. And then boom, just all laid flat. So I'm going to try to come in here and pull it up. I'm sure it's still going to grow because actually last year when I did my Three Sisters and the beans kind of did the same thing. They took over the corn, laid it down. It still grew some cobs. So the problem is the pollination might not be as good if it's in this stage. We'll see how it goes. These ones are the Tom Thumb popcorn. And actually look at, this is my wheat, my einkorn wheat, which it looks like the wind came and did some damage to as well. But what we get should be good. It's growing up pretty cool. And then same, this is that Country Gentleman corn, which is a little bit later. It's a 96-day corn, so it takes a long time. Nothing yet for cobs there. One of the things with gardening I've noticed is that you really have to kind of give yourself some grace because we don't control the weather. We don't control Mother Nature. And unfortunately, we're at the mercy. So we can do all the best practices and things will still happen. So if you're going into it, you know, disappointment really only comes out of expectations. So if we don't have those expectations, then we won't be disappointed. Or having realistic expectations, knowing this stuff is going to happen, then when it does happen, you just kind of move on, deal with it, and that's that. My other trick is just growing a lot of stuff because the more you grow, then if some stuff gets damaged, well, you still have other stuff. Just do one quick look here over at my little deck. These were some plants. I actually got them for free at the local co-op store. They were getting rid of all their herbs. This is a spearmint I did not have. This is a golden salvia, which is like a golden sage. And then this is Italian oregano. Because, you know, I have Greek oregano, but not Italian. These are the painted tongue flowers, which are very beautiful. I'm just going to definitely not grow them in little pots next year. This is my son's calendula that he has babied and nursed, taking care of his plant. It's looking good. And then all this sweet alyssum. This is that lettuce leaf basil. This is a pineapple sage, which has just gone nuts and is almost choking out my little peppers here. But that's okay. Everything if you want to grow, grow. Flowers, we're definitely going to have to get in here and deadhead these guys. My lemon verbena is looking good. This is actually some sweet alyssum I started. And then this guy, lots of nice pretty marigolds. Like these are the shorter marigolds I need to grow over in those other beds. And this is my, here's my tiny Tim. And you can see we're getting lots of tomatoes, just nothing red yet in there. And over here, these are the fat frog, which is actually a little bigger. And if you look in here, we are getting some big tomatoes. They're a green tomato, so I've just been kind of squeezing it to see when it's going to be ripe. And it should be shortly. Get my daughter to try one of those. And then just more petunias. There's our end of July garden tour. Lots of stuff is producing and there's still stuff to start producing. We're just really getting into the height of summer and all this stuff is just booming. So the next little while is going to be crazy, but it's one of the best times of the garden. I hope you guys are all out there enjoying your gardens. I know it can be very overwhelming this time of year, but I just like to picture myself sitting inside, freezing my butt off in the middle of winter. And then I'm like, you know what? It's not so bad out here. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.